Season 11 of the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series rolls into Hampton, Georgia with 5 races remaining in the regular season until we put together our chase for the Great Lakes Truck Series Championship Trophy. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Split Second Broadcasting's coverage here tonight of the EchoPark Automotive 154 at the renamed EchoPark Speedway. Mile-and-a-half racetrack, bit confined, but super speedway racing nonetheless. We'll see them double wide, 3 wide here this season as drivers make a bid towards a playoff position. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Ross Brockman, and Ross, unusual super speedway. It's not our usual 2.5 mile or bigger like a Daytona or a Talladega. A lot can happen here really fast.
Yeah, I feel like, even though we've had it in the sim now for a handful of years, we've only raced here once in the Great Lakes Truck Series. So I think a lot of these drivers still learning a little bit because I think a lot of drivers, especially on the sim, prefer the old Atlanta to the new one. So if they got a choice, they run that one. But part of it's probably because of the craziness, like you're saying. It's a little bit intense all the time, with a very narrow super speedway style race with the 1.5 mile configuration. It can be a little tense at times, and I think most of the time it seems like it's too wide, and once you get a third lane because somebody maybe makes a mistake or something, then it's just like crazy how narrow it gets. So I'm excited to see what these drivers do tonight and get through this wild card that is really one of our last wild cards of the regular season.
It is a wild card race in every sense of the phrase here, as these drivers are gearing up for 100 laps. A driver that comes into this race 11th in points. He is just a mere few points, 3 points to be exact, below that 10th in the standings cut line, is starting on the pole position in Jackson Sims alongside the defending champion in Hunter Madalinas for your front row.
Yeah, starting in the second row, we have the 1 of Jared Darling and the 63 of Eric Kepf.
Tony Manji sits in the top 10 in points, 7th in overall standings. He's going to be back in row number 3 with a driver that had a really good run last week at Martinsville, Nicholas Caressel.
Starting 7th is the 42 of Jeremy Pienta, and starting 8th, the 8 of Josh Robin.
Angel Delgado back in the field here this week, a former pole sitter on the season, shares row number 5, completing the top 10 with the driver that comes in on that cut line, 10th in the standings, Nathan Jump.
Starting 11th tonight, the 85 of Cy Jackson, I believe making his first start tonight. And then starting in 12th, the 23 of Spencer Owens.
It's going to be an all-spectrum racing row number 7, Elliot Henderson on the inside, William Barbagelata on the outside.
Couple of aggressive drivers back in 15th and 16th here, the 12 of Zachary Henry and the 49 of Shane Nicelonger.
Yeah, Christian Peterson, who comes into this race the points leader, 12 points in hand over the rest of his competition. He's going to share row number 9 with Michael Sensi.
Starting 19th, last week's winner, Jared Duda, is going to start next to Trey Bartow in the 82.
Matthew Durr going to be back in row 11. Second in the points, Matthew Weeks deep in the field here at the start of this one in 22nd.
Starting 23rd is the 29 of Brett Malone, and starting to his right is the 93 of Evan Snyder.
Kurt Gibson in the 45 will make his second start in the season, back in row 13 alongside of the 3, Travis Hanby.
A couple of our final qualifiers tonight. The starting 27th is the 00 of Aiden DuPont. Starting to his right was Brent Kincott.
Hunter Brittle just below the cut line, 14th in the standings, starting deep in the field, back in the 15th row, completing the top 30, going to be Ashton Lawson in the 26.
Starting 31st is the 13 of Lewis Woodall, and starting next to him is the 4 of Rod Fosnow.
Preston Henry going to make his second start on the season. He'll be back in the 33rd position. Sharing that 17th row with James Shiflett, and Robin Durr cycles out our 35 trucks that will take the green flag here tonight. It will be interesting to see here, Ross, how important track position out of the get-go is going to be here, because as you mentioned, that third lane, it can work, but there's not a whole lot of room to be able to maneuver up there. Not a lot of space between you and that outside wall. Drivers mid-pack, rear of the field, how anxious are they going to be to gain the track position they didn't get in qualifying?
Well, I think 100 laps. This might feel like it's a long race for a super speedway. So we saw back at Daytona a couple drivers, Elliott Henderson, Spencer Owens, kind of control this race. We'll see if that happens tonight.
Jackson Sims, Hunter Madalenas bring us down into the restart zone, and the EchoPark 154 is green. Being told there are some pass-through penalties that are going to have to be served here, including the 27 of William Barbagelata, 98 of Evan, sorry, 93 of Evan Snyder, I should say. You're seeing them coming to pit road right here. Lewis Woodall there in the 13. I believe the other driver back there, if I can make that out correctly, I believe that's 98 of Robin Durr.
I think a lot of drivers were excited to get out of Martinsville after the craziness that we saw there, and a couple of these drivers have to finish off with a couple penalties from last week, and that's what at least those four can work together a little bit here. But we're going to talk about that pit road entrance being such a unique spot on the backstretch. So far, everybody in the main pack, at least, double file and kind of maintaining the grid that they started.
Double file and in an orderly fashion here, too. Nobody really up each other's gearboxes, shoving the back bumpers here, giving some pretty good space, about maybe a quarter of a truck length from front bumper to rear bumper here through the corners. Last thing you want to have is a corner wreck, I feel, here at a track like Atlanta, because there's going to be practically nowhere to go. Maybe a little bit easier to avoid a wreck if it's here on the back straightaway or over on the D-shaped front straightaway, but definitely not here in the turns.
And I think it's such a weird... it's nice because you do have that option down the front stretch, but we see it a lot of times. People even use the apron a little bit, and I can see it almost becomes normal. Wow, we got a little bit of slice, and I think that was Darling in second on that bottom row. Just to line up, and when you're right behind somebody, as you see this view right here is perfect. It shows like it's kind of hard. And you think about it. Jared's even a little farther down with his view. It's kind of hard to see where you're at as far as the line going through the tri-oval here, so it could be a little intense. Yeah, like a perfect example of it. It's a little crazy to know, like, you want to push, but then also you're like, oh, there's the apron.
That line you're referring to there, we saw with that onboard, that double white line's got the red stripe in between. That is the same as the double yellow line at Daytona or Talladega. That is out of bounds. You cannot go down there to make a pass or advance your position. Drivers are allowed to go down there if they are in the process of avoiding a wreck, but that is technically exactly the same thing that we have at our other super speedways like Daytona and Talladega. You go down there, you advance your position, you're getting a penalty.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if these drivers, there's sometimes you can catch somebody sleeping a little bit, maybe try to cut that inside, but yeah, without something to watch for, can't be doing that at all. But yeah, I kind of mentioned it, before this, we went green there, that, can somebody kind of control this race? And I think, Jackson Sims so far doing a great job. Jared Darling now jumped up to the outside to get the push from Madalenas here, see if he can grab the lead. I think he's going to have a lot of momentum here going into one.
There are a lot of drivers, when they go through that front straightaway there, that D-shaped front straightaway, you're almost constantly turning left, because there's a bit of almost a 35-degree angle turn left to the start-finish line, another 35-degree angle as you prepare yourself for turn number one. And a lot of drivers there with that one shot we had that previous time as they made their way through the front straightaway. It looked like a lot of drivers getting out of shape, getting a little loose. You see them kind of there fanning out. Is this a matter of the handling of the trucks going through that section of the corner, or is that maybe trying to straddle the bumper so that way you're not going to necessarily make contact with the driver in front of you that offsets them and causes them to spin?
It might be a little bit of a mixture of both. It's a weird spot because you are turning just a little bit, but you're also, the other thing that I've always said, especially if I'm one of these drivers that are mid-pack or farther back, I'm just wanting to see what's in front of me. I think a lot of these drivers, you see Eric Kepf up on that outside goes He went all the way off to the right of Madalinas there, and I think that's part of it's just to be able to see, maybe get a little air, and because he can't really do much right here. He's basically waiting for Madalinas and Darlene to see if they can, he can every once in a while give a little bit of a bump, but you got to be careful just because that driver in front of you it could be, bumper to bumper with the driver in front of them.
Saw him right there pushing on that right rear quarter panel as they made their way down the back straightaway. You definitely don't want to be on the left rear, and you got to be a little bit gentle on that right rear as well, because just a little too much of a bump, you could hook them into the outside walls. There's a driver down in the apron. I believe that's Jeremy Pienta in the 42. He'll gather it up and bring it back up in front of the 90 of Angel Delgado, but that just killed the momentum on that inside line. It was that Nicholas Caressel I think I just saw there, swept from top to bottom. He saw that space open, says, I'll fill it in.
Like on the front stretch, Sims and Manji both kind of, just kind of bumpers didn't line up that last time by, and that gave Darling the opportunity to just, jump down to the inside lane and then just stacked that entire inside lane up to give Caressel that opportunity to get down to the bottom. We saw Pienta almost take the apron entry. I don't know if that's the way to go into turn one.
The second of 3 super speedways we will be at here this season. We've already run Daytona to kick the season off. We'll be at Talladega during the playoffs, and kicking off that season opener, Spencer Owens went to victory lane in the 23. You see him up there on the outside line, 4th car in line, that blue truck just behind Josh Robin. Does that make him a favorite coming into tonight, already having a super speedway victory under his belt here in season 11?
I almost wonder if he needs to remind everybody, like, hey, remember I won that race back at Daytona? That I think if you're other drivers, I think we saw Elliott worked really well with Owens there during Daytona, and that you see Elliott's not far behind there. Elliott Henderson in the 37 truck. So yeah, just I that's the biggest thing is maybe he needed a little reminder. But so far, moving up through the field might remind a lot of drivers how good he was at Daytona, and a guy to maybe work with tonight.
Yeah, it's amazing to me because for Spencer Owens coming into this evening, he's been consistent in the races outside of Daytona. He's 6th in overall points, but that win at Daytona is his only top 5 on the season so far.
Yeah, so it's just his moment, I guess. This is he did such a great job at Daytona to lead. As we see, Lewis Woodall is the first of those drivers that had the penalty. He's going to go up to the top here. This is where it gets a little tight, and you really realize how narrow this track is, as you see just getting really close to Owens there as they go by.
Yeah, not so much of an issue on entry or center of the corner, but you saw, as you alluded to, the narrowness as you exit off the corner. Inside line truck wants to push up to the middle line. Middle line truck wants to push up a little bit into that outside line. And guess what's in that outside line? There's a truck there in the 13. Looks like Lewis is going to tuck in line here and try and stay with this lead pack. Interesting, as we saw that quartet of drivers come to pit lane, that really brings into question that fight for the free pass should we see a caution. Right now, William Barbagelata has that position, nearly 11 seconds back to Robin Durr and Evan Snyder, who I believe are only, they're about maybe a little less than half a lap down right now. Woodall, another of those drivers that had to pit, already has fallen a lap down under green.
Yeah, it's a tough pit road to go down and lose some spots here, as we saw. Now Pienta is maybe a little, I wouldn't say he's upset, but probably a little frustrated they lost that spot on the inside to Caressel, just trying to line up bumpers there. They're getting a little sideways, as now Madalinas is going to have a huge run into 3 to try to take the lead.
Yeah, Hunter Madalinas moving up there to that outside line after Jared Darling cleared Jackson Sims. He moved down to the bottom. Madalinas said, I'll fill in that lane there to the top, and he's got a good push there from Eric Kempf, the 63. It looks like the momentum has definitely been a little bit more consistent on the outside line, but it seems like also as soon as somebody clears in that outside line, they immediately want to go down to the bottom of the racetrack.
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit more, you feel a little safer, especially when you're leading the pack, to be on that bottom lane. It's a little more guided with that with that white line down at the bottom to run on the, just stay there. So yeah, I think if Madalinas, he gets that opportunity, he's got a lot of help so far from Eric Kempf. Eric's a guy that runs so well at these super speedways, always seems to have qualifying down and get the track position, and so far tonight he's keeping it.
See just up ahead, that was Robin Durr, I believe. No, correction, Evan Snyder. is just ahead of the race leaders. He's on the same straightaway as them now. He'll be reeled in the next couple of laps here, maybe in this next lap with them thundering their way around this 1.5-mile speedway. And we are getting close to completing the first 20 laps here under green, which may start bringing into question when would these drivers have to be thinking about making a green flag pit stop.
Yeah, I think tonight, you definitely have to do, if we go green, you're definitely going to have to do 2 pit stops. It's just a matter of when you want to do them. And it might be even just fuel only or right side tires. I don't think you're taking 4 tires under green. If you are, then you're probably going to lose a lot of track position. So I think if they get a yellow, they might do their 4 tires then. But I think most of the time your grip, I don't know if you necessarily feel the need to get 4 tires just because of the super speedway style of racing.
And you kind of got an idea of what these drivers will have to do when and if they have to make those pit stops here under green. When we saw those penalty trucks come to pit road at the beginning of this race, down there to the left side, you can see there is a commitment line entering into turn 3. Drivers have to go down to the apron on the back straightaway. There's a great look at it right there. You can see that green light indicating pit road is open. That's where the commitment line is. There's an orange box on the racetrack for your commitment cone. As Russell with a little bit of a wiggle there going into the corner. You then have to get there to be able to be committed for pit road. You do not, however, have to go to pit road speed at that point. You can go all the way around the apron through 3 and 4 to where the normal commitment line would be at a speedway version of Atlanta before you have to back it down to that pit road speed. So a lot of things these drivers have to kind of get used to. And you mentioned it, Ross. It's only the second time here in this series that we've come to this racetrack. So not a lot of experience for the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series drivers as far as the series is concerned in terms of that type of pit road configuration.
I was thinking if I was out there tonight, I would have, right now I probably am like, man, I should have practiced that during our 1 hour warm up or during the practice session they had last night. So I hopefully these drivers did practice that, because I think there's an advantage there. Like, you could go down there and potentially figure out where the grip level is if you know how fast you can go through there. Because I don't think you can go wide open on the apron, of course, but if you can find the spot to be able to keep the momentum up and get all the way to pit road before slowing down a ton, you can make up some time. It's just a matter of, will we see anyone run each other over if we get to green flag pit stops? I think we're still about 15 to 20 laps away from that happening.
Jared Darling leading that inside line. We talk about drivers really maybe looking at this racetrack as an opportunity to springboard the consistency needed to get them above that 10th in the standings cut line. Jared comes into this race 13th in the point standings. He is 16 points below that 10th in the standings cut line. Being out in front in clean air, leading all of these laps, maybe picking up a victory here tonight could be just the thing he needs with 4 races remaining in the regular season.
Yeah, it's just an opportunity to, like we talked about with Spencer Owens, same way, but backwards. He won the super speedway. It kind of set up his start to the season, just been consistently running good enough to sit there 4th in points now as they run. So, it can work the other way too. If you've had a pretty consistent season, but maybe not in the top 10, maybe this win will get you enough bonus points to move up a bunch of spots here tonight, especially if we get that potential big wreck like you get on super speedways. It takes out a lot of contenders. So, yeah, a guy like Darling, Madalena's here, Sims, they're all up there battling in all kinds of different positions as far as where they're at. Really all kind of at the cut line.
Interesting here as we saw those live points. I believe that Christian Peterson actually started higher in the lineup than Matthew Weeks. It's taken about 25 laps, but Matthew Weeks has closed up what was a 12-point gap between himself and Peterson to 2 points. That's because Matthew Weeks is trying to break into the top 10. He's unofficially in the 12th position. Meanwhile, Christian Peterson's kind of mired back there outside the top 20. Last time by, he was scored in 24th.
And some of our drivers that are consistently fast on a lot of these tracks, when you get to the super speedway, we almost kind of forget about them. So, yeah, to see where Weeks and Peterson, end up tonight, it's a little, obviously a different style of racing, where a lot of these competitors up here that maybe don't have the raw speed that they wish they had on some of these other tracks have their opportunity tonight, as you see a great mix of drivers up in that top 10.
In the case here for Jared Darling, you had Jackson Sims. He led a portion of this race in the early going, starting from the pole. You've got Hunter Madalenas, who's leading that outside line. Would that be the trio of drivers we're kind of looking at here to kind of set the tone of when those pit stops would take place? Because with them having the clean air to the nose, they're also using a lot more fuel, providing the draft for the drivers behind them.
Yeah, this track is even more so just because the drivers in the backpack, you can't, at Daytona and Talladega, you can almost be wide open and kind of ride there as they're going by the 98 here. Going to be another tense moment down the front stretch here. But yeah, these drivers in mid-pack, they save a lot more just because there is so much more, more checkup opportunities for you because it's a little edgier than Daytona and Talladega. And I just feel like mid-pack, you can really save a lot of fuel here compared to, Daytona and Talladega.
Got a few drivers making their second start of the season as we documented. Got the 29 of Brett Malone. We saw him last week at Martinsville. You've got Preston Henry in the 2. As we've got caution now, that's Hanby in the 3. Looks like maybe James Shiflett as well. And this is interesting because you mentioned 2 trips to pit road. That would have put us maybe pitting around every 30 to 35 laps. This might be right on the window for some of these guys.
Yeah, I think it definitely, I think any time a caution was going to come out, they were potentially here in the last 15 to 20 laps, they would want to come down and get your fuel and tires. I don't think you want to pit under green. We saw the pit road, so this is probably a perfect time. Looks like a lot of people are pitting right now as we'll take a look at what happened. I just looked up and saw that Hanby was up in the wall kind of by himself. Maybe saw Shiflett kind of slowing down there. I think he was riding towards the back more, so we'll have to see if anyone else was involved.
Take a look and see what happened to that 3 truck. Had some pretty good damage on the right front fender. Oh, was trying to make his way around that lap car of Evan Snyder, and I couldn't tell if he got caught in the right rear quarter panel or what went on there. May have moved up thinking it was clear. I'm not sure, but that thing snapped around in a hurry.
Yeah, tough to. We talked about how it's a little scary when you go by on these. It's just starting to come down there. Is that the Snyder or the 98 of Robin Durr? Either way.
No, you're right. That is Robin Durr in the 98.
Yeah, yep. They, Robin's coming, basically starting to enter turn 3 there, which is kind of the perfect storm, I think. You probably feel like, okay, we're going to start, driving into the corner a little bit and maybe go down a little bit. I imagine that was just kind of the perfect, not perfect, but the worst spot to kind of be starting that pass. Not that the 3 of Hanby had a choice. I think that's where you're going to end up, but it just, kind of unfortunate position to be in.
Stuck double wide, and they were 3 wide going into the entry of turn 3. 2 drivers wanting the same piece of real estate, and we saw the end result. Looks like that number 1 pit stall in qualifying for Jackson Sims going to pay dividends. He's going to win the battle off of pit road here against Jared Darling and Hunter Madalinas. That caution going to be a big break for a couple of drivers. William Barbagelata will stay on the lead lap. He would have been the next driver that the leaders would have caught up to. I'm not 100% certain who the lucky dog would go to. It might be the 13 of Lewis Woodall. It was a battle, I believe, between himself and Evan Snyder for that free pass position. I believe Woodall was ahead at the time, so he'll get the lucky dog here after having to serve that early penalty beginning of this race. I believe he was 2 laps down when the leaders caught him here under green. He lost a lap on pit road, so he'll be -1 on this upcoming restart.
Actually, I'm looking. I think Lewis just took the wave around because he was 2 laps down. So
no, you're right. Barbagelata got the free pass.
There we go. I have. Yeah, I was gonna say I have Lewis has. The only time he's made it to pit road so far was serving that penalty. So I think he can go another 10, 12 laps here on this tank of fuel. So, being 2 laps down, it is so hard to get, one of your 2 laps back. It's a lot easier when you're only 1 lap down. So why not? I like this move by Lewis to take the wave around here and try to save your race. Being just 1 lap down here, if you get another quick caution in the next 5 to 10 laps, you have an opportunity to then come down and get your tires and battle for that free pass. Right now, you could go potentially battle for that free pass for the next 10 laps or so. And if it doesn't work out and you have to pit again, then you're right kind of back in the same spot you already were in.
In super speedway racing, you're on pit road, you're climbing your race car, the adrenaline's at an all-time high, the green flag flies, and everybody is on go. Usually it's a caution that has to come out for everyone to take a breath and calm down. It was a relatively calm first 30 laps right there. Does this caution now have everybody up the aggression level here on this restart?
about to find out. I see Sims right away. Great job getting going, but that's not something you really want here at a place like Atlanta, the Super Speedway. So Madalinas now, we're going to see him down on the inside really for the first time tonight. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do from that second in line there on the bottom.
Barbagelata getting that free pass. 31 of our 33 scored drivers on the lead lap. It looks like Robin Durr and Travis Hamby, who were involved in the incident, are currently off track. So we'll keep updated on whether they will be able to continue or not. Both involved in our only caution up to this point, as a little drag race there to the line between Jared Darling on the top, Jackson Sims on the bottom. Something I've been noticing here as well, and I'm not necessarily certain if it's just visual or if the drivers are really feeling it, that first left crook on the front straightaway. I've seen the driver on the inside line. I don't know if the splitter dips down for a moment. It almost looks like that left front bounces for a brief time as they get down close to that double white line.
It looks like a perfect track, but it really isn't. But yeah, you can see a little bit of a bounce and a little bit just a weird angle right when you get to it. I think sometimes you come off of turn 4, you're really buried in the steering wheel, kind of feeling the grip, and then all of a sudden it all goes away, and you kind of almost have to adjust how your how your tension is kind of in your hands on the steering wheel. So yeah, it's just a weird transition, pretty much that whole front straightaway.
One driver to keep an eye on here on this run is going to be the 11 of Nathan Jump. We saw him start up towards the front of the field here this evening. We got around the time that caution flew. He was back outside of the top 25. I believe he was in 27th or 28th position. I'm looking, he's making his way back up through the field here in 19th, but I'm almost wondering if he was back towards the rear of the field in ultra fuel saving mode. It's not the first time we've actually seen him try something like this. I believe Pocono, he also went into a major fuel saving strategy.
Yeah, and I think the other side to this, the strategy that I really like at super speedways is sometimes it's like, okay, well, I know I have at least 2 pit stops. I'm not even going to think about racing up here in the pack until we're closer to that final pit stop. And, since you have at least 2 to go through, that there's a chance for a big wreck. Why not ride in the back a little bit and, yeah, save your stuff, save some fuel, and just see where that puts you. Ultimately, just hoping that you don't get involved in that wreck, because that that can gain you as many positions as some of these drivers that are maybe racing hard. They're not going to gain the positions as fast as you would riding the back and seeing a big wreck.
Very rarely at a track like Atlanta Super Speedway are you going to take what's known as a soft hit. You are probably going to have a high impact wreck that is more than likely, if not going to end your night, take you out of the running for a victory. So I'm with you. I like that ride at the back strategy. Hey, if something's happening up in front of you, it's a lot easier to avoid a wreck when you see where they are rather than where they might be.
Yeah, and I think, if we do have a green flag pit stop, which we're probably 10 laps away on that first run. If we could get this one going here, maybe potentially you get that green flag pit stop. If you can save a little bit of fuel and go just even a couple laps longer than most of the pack, you are basically betting on a lot of those drivers making sure that they can navigate this weird pit entry. And if they don't, and a caution comes out, it might set you up if you're still out on the track, because once you make this pit stop, you'll be a couple laps down. We saw that with our penalty truck. So it's one of those things. If you can go a little bit farther and lock those drivers a lap down, and you get a caution, that is a huge opportunity to gain a ton of track position and put a bunch of your competitors at a disadvantage.
The 2 potential strategies you could maybe go with here. We went back green with around 70 laps to go, so with knowing that these drivers are going to have to pit at least one more time, you could maybe split the final run in half and come to pit road somewhere around lap 75, but I almost feel like maybe to what you just said there, we're running it out as far as we possibly can until we have maybe fumes in the tank, just in case we end up having that caution come out and we don't end up finding ourselves trapped.
Yeah, and I think this field is really good at Daytona and Talladega of looking at the alternative strategy where you can pit and not lose a lap. But since you can here, I think a lot of them understand, most of them understand that that's probably going to be the strategy. So it's just a matter of, can we get there? So right now, they're still racing really hard here, trying to push each other to the lead. It looks like Darlene and Kep are going to have a a second attempt at it. They kind of fell back there over the last lap or so to see if they can get those two pink trucks up on the outside up to the lead.
Yeah, we've been gridlocked for the race lead ever since we started this race here tonight, whether it's been Sims versus Darling or Darling versus Madalinas. I mean, we've ended up seeing pretty much these 4 trucks up here in the first 2 rows all night long. It kind of almost begs the question, though, as we start getting closer to when that final pit stop takes place, a lot of times you'll see at Daytona, at Talladega, that outside line, it starts to fade a bit. Drivers try to find their way in line on the inside. Look at how congested this is. We are gridlocked all the way through the field. There is no space down to the inside for a truck to be able to go down and fill in a space. So if you're those drivers there on the outside line, at what point does your mentality have to start shifting to, I don't think I'm going to be able to necessarily pit here from the second lane safely. Do I want to, if that lane is open on the bottom, do I want to abandon ship, go down there just in case we continue to run long? Oh, we may not do that. Someone was out of shape back there, and that's William Barbagelata. Zachary Henry up into the wall hard. They almost had that saved in the middle of the pack, and I believe the 45 of Kurt Gibson has gotten a piece of it there on the exit of 4 as well.
I was just looking the last lap or so. You were talking about these drivers getting maybe a little antsy, the idea of trying to get down to the bottom. Ultimately they see that it's kind of that gridlock. I think that what I saw is it looked like Ashton Lawson pulled out of line. I'll have to take a look here.
3 wide. That is Matthew Weeks up on the top side. Oh, looks like maybe the 90 of Angel Delgado drifts up the track a little bit into the left rear, and they almost had that saved. It's that slight contact afterwards that overcorrected the 12 up the racetrack that eventually had Zachary Henry going around.
Yeah, and just before that happened, I saw Ashton Lawson jump to the middle around Matthew Weeks, and I think that just kind of started the stack up a little bit. And there, yeah, it just and Henry probably had it somewhat saved there, but in the end, kind of just truck turned right. I don't know if he got bumped by the 45 of Kurt Gibson there, or if it was ultimately just his tires just finally hooked up. But yeah, unfortunate ending for a handful of these drivers racing somewhat in the middle of the pack.
We were on board there with Aiden DuPont. Saw him have some contacts. He ran the back of Gibson's 45. Nathan Jump, I think, got a slight piece of it, as did the 4 of Rod Fastnow. Here's to what you were talking about here, the look to the inside middle of the racetrack. Inside line is Pienton, the 42, Weeks up there on the top, and first time we had really attempted 3 wide here in the pack, and maybe drivers just not exactly certain what to do in that situation. Yeah, that just the 90 never was able to hook the bottom. Michael Sensi almost got involved there. Nice job getting through. This caution will put Lewis Woodall back on the lead lap. He was the only driver -1, so that taking the wave around strategy going to work out for him.
Yeah, the only thing I noticed, he's been on pit road for the last minute or so, so I don't know if he got a little damage in that, or but I thought that I thought the same thing, but I was also knowing that like you can't really ride too much being farther in the back there as a guy that's a couple laps down. It looks like he's back rolling off of pit road right now, but yeah, so a handful of these drivers that had those penalties and were laps down, I think they're gonna like this idea of having another caution here, a reset. I think some of these drivers that maybe pitted right now, even though some of them were for damage, I see like Hunter Brittle, Brett Malone, they came down and it looks like maybe just topped off on fuel. I don't think that's a bad idea. We talked about you want to be able to run as far as you can. I don't think you can. You definitely can't make it yet from where we're at as far as making it to the end on a pit stop. I think that's why you're not seeing any of these really front 20 drivers pit. But we're not far from that pit stop happening. If you could go green here for a while, and next thing you know, you can go an extra 5 to 10 laps farther than these front runners. Like we talked about, you get that green flag run for if by chance we get it, these drivers that maybe just topped off can go a little bit farther and put a little pressure on these leaders on making sure they execute on that pit road entry.
You also mentioned about the likelihood that we probably wouldn't see a 4-tire pit stop if we had pit stops under green. A couple of the drivers I saw that came to pit road were not involved in the wreck, but definitely were hard on the brakes to avoid. I would assume that they probably came down pit road, made sure they didn't flat spot any of those tires, maybe took on a set of Goodyears here in preparation for this upcoming restart as we near the halfway point here tonight in the EchoPark Automotive 154. Jared Darling is going to be on the inside line here as the control truck with Jackson Sims to his outside. The timing of that yellow had the one truck out in front, so he is the control machine here on this restart.
So far we've seen tonight that bottom lane really just takes off, and Darling and Madalinas are both going to get kind of, away from the rest of the pack. This is the first time we're going to see the 24 of Manji really have a all clear, not have anyone to his right, see if he does anything with it, decides to stay in line.
Interesting to me as well, something we talk a lot about when it comes to super speedway racing is the ability of teammates to find each other and work together. There's a lot of drivers up here that are kind of on an island of their own. Their friends are where they find them. You talked about that 24 of Tony Manji. No Jared Duda up here towards the front. We talked about the fact that Christian Peterson was kind of hanging at the back first portion of this race, so he's just working with whoever will work with him up here on this inside line right now.
Yeah, after a couple races, including last week, where they were, really working together throughout the entire race. It's a change of pace, but this league is very closely knit. So I think you got a lot of these drivers that are familiar with each other, that race with each other each week, and they've been racing with each other for many seasons. So you find out who your friend is just by whoever you restart next to at times during these super speedway races.
Somebody hurry up the racetrack there, got put in that third lane and are drifting back. Couldn't tell exactly who that was, but it looks like they found a safe place. That might have actually been the 85 of Sky Jackson, who's making his debut here tonight. Got shuffled out of line and now is drifted back to outside of the top 20.
Some of these drivers in the back now, it's just a matter of setting yourself up to maybe see if you can avoid a wreck. I think a lot of them are probably a little frustrated knowing that it's just been so tough to move up, and that's the way that this Atlanta has been so far, especially with these trucks with the gridlock here. We see Elliot Henderson now leading the top lane, kind of his first opportunity tonight to battle up in that top three. We'll see if he can mount a charge here with Jackson Sims pushing him.
Smoke lingering there on the front straightaway. Either some fans are having a barbecue and the smoke's blowing it over there, or maybe someone's sitting on pit road with a blown engine. But whatever the case, don't know if that might be causing some visibility issues for these drivers as they come off of the corner. Now you see that outside line has gotten themselves formed up. It was Jared Darling and Hunter Madalinas pretty well out in front of the battle for third, but look at the momentum there with the push from Jackson Sims. Henderson not only gets alongside the right rear of Madalinas, now he's going to be side by side for the lead when they exit off of 2.
I imagine if you're some of these drivers we saw, you see Elliot Henderson, obviously back at Daytona, was one of those drivers that controlled the race most of the race, and a guy that multi-time champion. Some of them might be like, oh no, we're giving him an opportunity to maybe control this race or at least be one of the front runners. That's always going to make it interesting. It looks like somebody, maybe Josh Robin, got pushed out to the outside there. Now Eric Kempf might be pushed out to the outside as Spencer Owens is gonna thread the needle through the middle.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it. Drivers getting frustrated, kind of just having to ride, going nowhere. Now as we see drivers handling go away and they push up here off the corner, we're seeing drivers more and more willing to stick their nose in there 3 wide, shuffle them out to be able to make forward progress.
It's a huge stack up here as Eric Kempf just kind of no momentum because he had nobody with him there, and 53, the 29, both kind of sneaking by there. That was could have been a moment there. Nice job by everybody to get through it, but a lot of track position loss for Kempf and Robin.
And that kind of, in a way, stalled out that outside line. There's about a car length and a half lost for Elliot Henderson now as he'll try and with the aid of Jackson Sims, get back up alongside of Jared Darling. Tony Manji loose there on the inside line. Looks like the handling wasn't necessarily there at the get-go, but they had a little bit more of a handle on it. There wasn't quite as much movement. We're seeing a lot of slipping and sliding now as we sink into the evening hours.
Just a matter of holding on to your truck here, and yeah, I think it's probably also more drivers maybe being a little bit more aggressive now. Like I said, I have always kind of felt like with these super speedways and most of these races, once you if you got 2 pit stops to go yet, you kind of maybe feel like we got a long way to go. Now with just 1 pit stop to go, for sure, that you might as well, as we look like maybe a couple are going to pit here.
Yes, indeed.
Interesting strategy.
Jeremy Pienta in the 42, Angel Delgado in the 90. On board here with the 42. Notice how he maintains his speed all the way around here through 3 and 4. He won't woe it down until we get right here to where that cone is.
That looked pretty good. I don't know, without being behind the wheel, you don't know for sure, but yeah, that looked pretty good as far as keeping up the momentum and hitting the pit stop. This is a little nerve-wracking for these guys. I guess for both of them, they're maybe here, really just for a win. So maybe this is the strategy to try to. Looks like Jackson Sims up on the top side now, getting shuffled back. A guy that really has been up in the top 5 all night.
He was the wingman for Elliot Henderson there, was helping to push Elliott to the front, and got caught out there by Spencer Owens. Now in that third lane and going back.
The original wingman is back for Elliot Henderson, and that's what happened there. It's Spencer Owens. So yeah, the duo from Daytona up on that outside.
Starting to see some more drivers work their way forward here as well. I mean, we say it every single week. You cannot break Matthew Weeks and Christian Peterson away from each other. They will eventually find each other on the racetrack. They've been back and forth for the points lead all season long. They were side by side that last time by across the start-finish line in a battle for 6th position.
Both of them finally kind of getting some track position. Both of them starting, mid-pack or farther back. So another guy just in front of them, Shane Neiswanger, has moved up pretty nicely this run. Just a handful of drivers with kind of some changes in that top lane have taken advantage and gained some track position in this run. So, yeah, something that we didn't see a ton of during that first opportunity. Now some drivers maybe finding ways to make up ground.
Yeah, we talk about drivers with only a handful of races in the regular season that are looking to work their way above the cut line, but there's also a good handful of drivers that are trying to maintain their gap to the cut line. You mentioned Shane Neiswanger. He comes into this race a total of 28 points ahead of the cut line. Hunter Matalinas, who's put together a good race here tonight. I don't think he's fallen outside the top 5 at all. He was only 10 points to the good coming into this evening. Even Tony Manji, he came into this race a total of 29 points ahead of the cut line, and he's been up here inside of the first 3 or 4 rows pretty much the entire race. So drivers are feeling the pressure not only on the minus side, but those that are just barely on the plus side as well, because kind of case in point with Hunter Matalinas, had a great start to the season, found a couple of weeks though where he finished out of the race and now finds himself down around that cut line rather than up there battling for the regular season championship.
Just a matter of survival. As I see Christian Peterson here, I think Spencer Owens had kind of a run on Henderson, and I don't think he wanted to pass him, and I think he just kind of had to pull out of line, and Peterson was like, oh, are we going? And he did, and unfortunately kind of got stuck there. It looks like he's going to have Duda here, his teammate, who's going to get in the wall. Yeah, it's just kind of an unfortunate spot for Peterson. He kind of thought maybe there was some action happened, decided to make a move, and really it was just a lineup issue with that top lane.
Last week's winner, Jared Duda, who saw him brush the wall there with the right side of his 53, got that victory last week. Dominating performance at Martinsville. Maybe the one good thing about this racetrack, if you're up in that third lane, you can brush it and not really have that much damage. Your truck in this case will be up to speed. The problem is you're going to lose a ton of momentum, and we saw him kind of stack that outside line up all the way back, including the 29 of Malone, the 10 of Hunter Brittle, and others.
Yeah, just, it's like a parachute when you touch that wall, and if someone's right behind you or even just a couple car lengths behind you, they have to make a huge maneuver, and sometimes that is into a truck to their inside. So yeah, it's a wonder we get through them so often. It's a always a big moment when somebody gets in the wall. But back up front here, it's got to be frustrating for some of these drivers. You feel like if you're Jared Darling and Elliott Henderson, you really want to just be able to lead and maybe ride a little bit and get yourself to this last pit stop, but you can't. You got to be up on it and be ready for those pushes. As both Madalinas and Owens here, they're not stopping the pushing.
Yeah, I was going to say, beginning of this race, I was saying they were doing so good. There was a lot of space between those bumpers. Now, there's no space whatsoever. We are shoving on the back straightaway. Even here on the front straightaway, you saw the one of Jared Darling getting a little squirrely. That's because he has that 7 of Madalinas right on his back bumper, maybe lifting those rear tires off the ground a little bit.
And I think guys like Madalinas here now, Henderson and Owens and even Darling just leading this, they're gaining some experience here. Even if you've run this before, and like we said, we've only run here once in this series. Every time you come back, you kind of relearn a few things, including just how the pushes go. And then you got guys like Nicewanger, Jump, who are slowly moving up, Weeks are slowly moving up here. They haven't really learned that yet because in the pack, you're not really pushing as hard as these drivers up front are. And I think that's going to be a key when you get down to the end of this. Oh, we got a spin.
Trouble in the middle of the pack. That's Jackson Sims catching a little air. Caressel is around, and we're going to have about a dozen trucks in this one, going from the middle of the back straightaway all the way into the entrance of turn 3.
I think that was... I don't even know what happened there. We'll have to look at the replay. But yeah, unfortunately, Jackson Sims, started up front tonight. Really thought he had a great chance to even contend for the win tonight, and got shuffled back, and ultimately that put him in a bad spot here. As meanwhile, as we look at this replay, I see everybody's coming down pit road. This is going to basically be the final pit stop here, I think, for most of the drivers. I doubt anyone is staying out. I think we're all going to get our final set of tires and fuel and race this thing out to the end. But yeah, we'll have to see how much damage some of these drivers in this incident received and if they can continue on.
Yeah, anywhere from maybe 10 to 12 drivers involved in this. The other 20 that were ahead of this wreck, to your point, just let out a collective sigh that they won't have to come to pit road under green flag conditions here, and they'll be able to sort this thing out. That's the 29 of Brent Malone up and into the wall. As he comes down, he just tags the right rear of Jackson Sims. That's Aiden DuPont up there into the outside wall. Caressel goes for a slide and then contact further with him. 18 of Matthew Durr there. I believe that also the 8 of Josh Robin was collected up in that one. It's now a question of how hard was the contact. Is it enough that it's going to take us out of being competitive, or does it end our evening here?
Yeah, just another one of those weird kind of moments in the middle of the pack where drivers maybe changing lanes and passing each other, just trying to get around it, and unfortunately, damaged a lot of trucks. On pit road, it basically everybody, 4 tires and fuel, they're going to race this thing out here, this final 30 laps.
Hunter Brittle that was in the middle line there, and just up there, a little out of the groove on the exit of the corner. May have been some marbles up there as well. It may have caused that right front on Brent Malone to skid. Saw the 2 right there close to our camera of Preston Henry. He got a piece of that.
You mentioned Hunter Brittle there making that pass and ultimately getting through it, kind of being just in front of the wreck. He was a guy that I was kind of keeping an eye on because he did pit on that last yellow, and I thought he could be a guy here that could go almost to, single digits laps to go before making his pit stop. And I thought, he was maybe being a little aggressive, trying to move his way up through the field so he could really take advantage of that if we got to the green flag pit stops. And I thought maybe that was what he was doing. He made a nice move there to the middle, but it just kind of stacked everybody up. Not that it was definitely not Brittle's fault, but I imagine he was probably like, that's the caution I didn't want. Unfortunately, it happened in his mirror.
I think 2 other drivers that didn't want to see that yellow, we saw them make a pit stop there under green, Jeremy Pienta and Angel Delgado. Now, they were able to take the wave around when all the lead lap trucks came to pit road, so they are back on the tail end of the lead lap. but they're going to restart back in 28th and 29th. Would have been interesting to see where they would have cycled around had everybody else had to make a pit stop under green, but that's now a moot point, and we're going to be getting ourselves a restart with less than 30 laps to go. You mentioned about the frustration of not being able to go anywhere. Now, as these laps tick away, that frustration is going to ramp up even more for those drivers just outside the top 10 mid-pack of the field.
And I think as you go, you continue to go into this race. It seems like the aggressive driving kind of moves its way up to the pack. We've seen towards the back, we've seen towards the middle. Now I think you could see an incident happen from the drivers up in these front couple rows, but just because the aggression level is going to stack up for these drivers that are just trying to get that track position.
Jared Darling going to get us back underway here at the EchoPark Speedway. Pretty good launch for both lanes there. Henderson stays somewhat in touch. He's got the top side with Tony Mangi. Inside line is Hunter Madalinas with Jared Darling. And look who's there, third on the inside line. Our previous Super Speedway winner back in the season opener at Daytona, Spencer Owens, looking to go 2 for 2 at the Super Speedway configurations.
Yeah, kind of getting somewhat separated here from Elliott Henderson, who he was running with during that last run. You're going to see Mangi now pushing Henderson. Let's see if that duo can do anything with Darling and Madalinas. I think Darling and Madalinas kind of, it seems like they've made this agreement, and they probably both know that it's this is the plan. I don't know. Maybe at some point will you see Madalinas jump up there in front of Henderson, and it might be something to watch for. But right now, they basically have been running that bottom lane and doing a great job of holding off everybody.
Yeah, we mentioned the fact that we've been at Atlanta previously here in the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series, but this is only the second time we've been at the Super Speedway configuration. We're going to make history here tonight. A driver will be getting their first win at this racetrack for the first time in their career, because the previous winner of this event back in October of 2024 is not in the field, and that was Gavin Fitzgerald.
Yeah, an opportunity. I was really looking forward to Sims. Jackson Sims was our pole sitter tonight from Georgia. I remember, early season, he talked about how excited he was for the old Atlanta, being from Georgia, and unfortunately, not able to. I guess he's still out on the track in 23rd, but a lot of these drivers up front now battling to see who can be the new king of Atlanta/EchoPark Speedway.
Evening did not get off to a great start for the 27 of William Barbagelata. Had to come to pit road in the early stages, lost a lap as a result, was able to get the free pass on the first yellow. He's now up here breaking into the top 10. He's 5th on that outside line. Don't count out that number 27 Bud Light Chevrolet Silverado.
Yeah, great job by a handful of these drivers that did have that penalty. This is a tough track to have that penalty. Because we saw all of them go a lap down immediately, and many of them go 2 laps down. So to battle back from that and just have a chance to be on the lead lap here towards the end, is Matthew Weeks is going to make a great move here to cycle by Tony Mangi on that top lane, and he's going to be second in line behind Elliott Henderson. The only thing it did is just kind of pull that second lane back a little bit. They're going to have to regroup here to try to get in. I mean, they have the momentum now. Here they come down the backstretch.
Interesting there with Weeks picking up that spot. I almost wonder too if Mangi may have given him the spot. Why? Because look who that puts on his back bumper. Teammate Christian Peterson. What if these two might have some kind of communication where in closing stages they might jump up to that third line? Mangi would know if he makes a move, he would more than likely have somebody willing to go with him.
Yeah, I like the idea, if you can be one of these drivers, to force the third line. That's totally fine if you can force somebody up to that third top line. I don't want to be the one that has to go up there unless it's the final lap. Maybe it's a last ditch effort, but I feel like if anything, you want to be able to run the middle lane and try to send somebody up to that outside lane to gain track position, or even on the bottom try to send somebody more towards the middle lane. And if you can force them up there, just based on line changes and where you can get the momentum, I think that's the goal. I think we saw so many drivers that anytime they've been stuck up on the outside, a lot of times they've been losing momentum, and it's a tough place to run up there. So we'll see. I like the move to be closer to a teammate. You feel maybe a little safer with somebody, but maybe Weeks here just trying to be a little more aggressive. Maybe Mangi's thinking, yeah, you go ahead, you try it.
time by will be at 20 laps to go here this evening at the Atlanta Super Speedway. Looks like we've got about 21 drivers up here in this lead pack as Elliott Henderson continues to try and stay alongside, edge ahead of Jared Darling on that inside line. Drivers that are in that second groove, they've got some options, as you mentioned, try and catch somebody out, shift them up to that third lane, but if you're on that bottom of the racetrack, you're basically stuck. All you're hoping is that your line's going to continue to move. You're basically relying on everybody else around you and you either moving forwards or maybe moving backwards, depending on the case.
I think that's where that aggression comes from, too, when you're fourth, fifth, sixth in line here on any of these rows. You're like, come on, you guys, do something, right? You're like, come on, wait, I want to move up. I want a chance to be up in this front two rows and battle for the lead. And yeah, we'll have to see if at some point we get anyone trying to do anything. We see back farther. There's somebody looking 3 wide down in the bottom. Anything to try to gain some positions here. It's a really tough place to make those moves, especially just everyone's going really fast here all at the same time, where Daytona and Talladega can maybe back off and kind of set up a run. It just seems like that's a little tougher here.
Side Jackson that was in the middle of 3 wide. I believe he made a pass on Nicholas Caressel. Now tucks up in front of the 40 truck that he just passed, as this great aerial view shows the ebbs and flows of the runs that the inside and the outside line are able to get. Seems like the inside line much better on entry, but we get through the center of the corner to the exit, you can see the momentum shift to that outside line, and maybe the most telling portion of that is that the drivers in that outside line can stay in the throttle a little bit more. It's not as quite of a tight corner that they have to make as the drivers on the inside line, who maybe even as the tire heat builds up in that right front, might have to breathe the throttle a little bit to get the nose pointed for the straightaway.
Yeah, a guy that I see looks like he's struggling a little bit is the 7 of Madalenas. He definitely has been running a little bit higher through the corners and just, now he's, there we got an accident.
No! That was Spencer Owens, Tony Manji, Christian Peterson, Matthew Weeks, our top 2 in points, both collected right there together. That was a battle gone wrong, I believe around the 4th position, right up there in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rows.
I think what we're going to see is it was actually 6th. Tony Manji that just kind of just drove down a little too low entering 3 and kind of hooked the 23 of Owens, and then that sent him up into Weeks, and it was on from there. But just a weird kind of angle for Manji entering the corner. We'll have to take a look here and see.
They might have stacked too, because it almost looked like Weeks took a look. Yeah, he looks to the middle here on Henderson, who's going to close the door. Weeks has to back out of that, and I think that might have been what caused the reaction from the 24 down into Spencer Owens. So that actually happened right up there in the battle for the lead.
And actually, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking the 24 kind of coming down. I think he came down because the 49 of Shane Neiswanger was on the inside, and he was kind of maybe running more towards the middle lane. And I think that was probably just, 2 drivers just kind of seeing what's going on in front. And you see the momentum here. You see Neiswanger runs a little bit higher there. It looked like maybe he just barely touched Manji. I think that's what we'd see if you get the right angle. But unfortunately, wrecked a bunch of trucks here.
Side Jackson there, Kirk Gibson and the 45, Caressel gets a piece, and you said the phrase earlier on tonight, Ross, wild card racetrack. This is case in point. Exhibit A, Your Honor. This is why it's a wild card racetrack. About 5-6 of these drivers had been running in the top 10 all night long and now are damaged goods.
Just looking back there. Neiswanger able to get through. Nathan Jump, William Barber-Gelata, our driver that was able to get back to the lead lap, all survived that, even though the incident happening right around them there. This little reset here is going to basically set us up for a shootout here that I think is going to be no letting off, I think, the rest of the way with these front runners. I think, you see these drivers. Great shot here from Jeff.
Yeah, watch right here. That right rear hit for Christian Peterson. He almost had this thing avoided. That almost reminds me of an Atlanta Super Speedway Cup Series race where Ryan Blaney had the wreck avoided. That little contact in the right rear and straight up into the outside wall. And you're going to see entering into this shot here, the 56 of Matthew Weeks. That's your top two in points that came into this race, separated by 12 points, both involved in this wreck.
Yeah, we talked a little bit over the last couple weeks about that battle to be the number one, seed in the playoffs, the number one driver in the chase format, and there comes a bonus with that. So with both of them having trouble here, maybe it doesn't really affect their battle between each other, but it's definitely going to set up these drivers that are third, fourth, and fifth an opportunity to maybe close the gap here and contend for that bonus. So. Yeah, big opportunity here because of this wreck, taking out a handful of our front runners and points.
Yeah, to your point, Christian Peterson, Matthew Weeks in that wreck. Zachary Henry's out of the race, involved in an earlier incident. He was third in points, so Elliot Henderson may be the driver in the catbird seat if he can come away with a strong run here tonight. Currently going to restart in the second position. He was 38 points out of the points lead. Another driver that's been up in the top 5 all night long. This could be exactly what he needs to get back into the regular season championship conversation. But you mentioned a shootout. How about 13 laps to sort it out here tonight at the EchoPark Speedway? Jared Darling, he's been committed to that double white line. I don't think you'll see him come off the bottom at all for the remainder of this race, hoping that's going to get him home to a checkered flag this evening.
Yeah, the test will be what Madelinus does if he ever gets the opportunity to clear that outside lane. Would he jump up, or is he going to stay with Darling down on this bottom? He's been kind of his partner in crime here for the whole race. We know Madelinus. He's here to win. He's as much as he maybe wants to push Darling to the win, he wants to win too. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, now you got Shane Neiswanger pushing Elliot Henderson, and you can see he's kind of sliding back and forth a lot. A driver that maybe going to have to learn on the fly here how this bumping up in the top 2 works.
That little bit of a broken up formation on that outside line stacked him up. You see now Jared Duda is stuck there 3 wide. Hunter Brittle finally going to clear Trey Bartos, so we'll settle it back out to double wide. But the stack-ups are going to be something to keep an eye on here, as now Duda tries to get to the left rear of William Barbachelata here on the front straightaway.
Yeah, it's a product of a lot of times you feel like, I'm leaving the door open a little bit, but ultimately I'm just trying to let that driver behind. Oh, we got one around.
One hard into the wall back there. I believe that was Josh Robin in the 8 truck. Straight up into the outside wall. We'll bring out the caution, and we're going to get ourselves a restart with less than 10 laps to go. Believe we're going to see the 42 of Jeremy Pienta get down on the apron. He then kind of slid back up the track as they were making their way through the center of 1 and 2, and that might have led to whatever caused the 8 to go up into the wall. Might have stacked him up a little bit here. Almost gets up into Tony Manji, and yeah, it spreads him out 3 wide. You got the 18 of Matthew Durr gets in the left rear quarter panel of Josh Robin's machine, and fortunately we didn't have other drivers involved. There was quite a number of drivers back in that vicinity that could have also gotten collected.
Just a tough night. Josh, at one point we saw him up near the front, battling up in that top 6. We saw, it started, Pienta kind of getting down on the apron, kind of just. We've seen it so often in almost all these incidents. You could see where like the start of the momentum switch, where it kind of happens, and then it just kind of slowly moves its way through the pack as to where the actual incident happens. So. Almost every single wreck we've seen tonight has had that moment of we see a situation where a lane change or having to go 3 wide, and then all of a sudden half a lap later, that's where the incident happens.
Pretty good contact right front of Rod Fastenau as well, as he got into Josh Robin, and now we'll rack it up and we'll do it again. If you're Jared Darling, in that one truck right now. You've been out in front majority of the evening. You've had one strategy in mind. That's just keep it down there on the bottom of the racetrack. You've had good help behind you to be able to keep you there. Does there get to a point where you don't want to see these late race restarts because it's just you're starting to maybe second guess some moves here, or maybe thinking, this is what I want to do, and then all of a sudden you're like, hold on, do I have a plan B? Would you rather have had this thing go green all the way to the end there and not had this caution, a little bit of time to start thinking, maybe overthinking some strategy for the upcoming restart?
No, I feel like, if I was any driver outside of the top four, I think every chance there's a restart, there's kind of, pros and cons to it. I think the pro side is I like the idea of having restarts because those front four, that's the opportunity that they're going to make a mistake. A mistake, once you get rolling and you go green for a little while, if there's a mistake from the front four, it's probably something that's going to cause the end of my race too, where, a restart issue where maybe a line doesn't go and then you're in the right lane. That's where you can maybe jump some drivers here, gain some track position. I think the downside of all these cautions is if you're a driver, the second half of this top 10 is you're just running out of laps, and I think that's the other side of it. You want plenty of laps to be able to maneuver your way and try to be one of these front four. I think right now that's where the race is going to be won. It's just a matter of can that front four keep up their battle, and then from there, it's just a matter of the aggressiveness from the drivers behind. Do they do anything too crazy? I guess you got to try it if you're one of those drivers, but ultimately, I don't know if you can do too much unless one of those four make a mistake.
Well, the racing here tonight at the Atlanta Motor Speedway has been incredible. The action has been fast and furious, and now we are gearing up for a shootout to close out this one in preparation for next week when we'll be heading to Worldwide Technology Raceway, getting set with 4 races remaining until the playoff grid is put together. But we got to finish this one out as the twilight hours set in. The sun is beginning to set here behind the horizon here in Hampton, Georgia. And Jared Darling, hoping that maybe this is the last time he's going to have to lead them to green. He's driving truck number 1. He wants to finish in that position. Elliot Henderson also looking for his first win on the season. Going to lead their respective lines here to 7 laps to go.
Stack up mid-pack on back. Lots of people changing lanes. It's maybe change up the energy mid-pack that maybe would cause some big changes up in the back half of the top 10. But meanwhile, up front, Jared Darling getting a great restart and a good push from Madalinas. But here comes Henderson with the momentum on that outside.
That was Ashton Lawson who was up in that 3rd lane going backwards after a great run last week at Martinsville Speedway. Inside line momentum here off of 4. Here comes the outside line. Shane Neiswanger up and into the wall. Nobody else is going to hit him, but massive contact there on the front straightaway for the driver that was second in that outside line.
It's that mistake I was talking about with one of those front 4 that's going to set up Barbara Gelada here to have a chance to get down into the 3rd spot on this bottom lane, maybe give an opportunity for Nathan Jump to be second in line on that outside. I think, that's the moment that maybe some of these drivers that are, in the middle part of this top 10 have a chance to now jump up in this front 4.
Tough break there for Neiswanger. Mentioned he came into this race 28 points ahead of the cut line, was looking for a good run tonight to build that cushion with now less than 5 races remaining here in the regular season. He's more than likely going to finish outside of the top 25 as we watch this battle up front once again. Now Elliot Henderson has a new driver pushing him. It was Spencer Owens, then it was Shane Neiswanger, now it's Nathan Jump in the 11.
Yeah, it just seems like since that, Neiswanger had that issue, that top lane really just haven't been able to get reorganized and get back up there. Now they're going to have a nice little run here. This is another one of those moments I talked about, Nathan Jump. This is kind of first time pushing somebody, wide open. And this is, you got to kind of learn it on the fly with only 4 laps to go. It's a matter of can he learn how to do it. It looks like Brittle's going to take him in the middle and go 3 wide.
Brittle in the middle. I like the way that sounds, as now getting shuffled out of line is Nathan Jump. Brittle will now get on the back bumper of Elliott Henderson. How about the 5 of Brent Kinkcut up here late? He's unofficially in the 8th position, 12th in the standings, a total of 13 points below the 10th in the standings cut line coming to this evening. He's up fighting for a spot in the top 5.
Yeah, this move here for Hunter Brittle to get behind Elliott Henderson, it really has worked.
There Jared Duda, Tony Manji, Eric Kempfhart up into the outside wall. Nicholas Carresso collected up as well. That's Ashton Lawson there. Just mentioned Kinkcut. He's collected up in this one. And it looks like this is more than likely going to have us bringing Jared Darling's truck around, and we're going into overtime here at Atlanta.
Can't wait to really see what happened here to find out, because just watching the action there, everybody trying to maneuver. I noticed a couple of these drivers that pitted back on lap 85. Eric Kempf, who was in that. I'm trying to think who else was in there. Pienta was in that. Where they all kind of pitted. A handful of them did, and had maybe 12 to 15 lap fresher tires, and it was kind of working. They were slowly moving their way up as Cressel got kind of crossed up, and then from there, the rest of the pack decided to have something go wrong there, go haywire after, and Cressel gets involved in that too.
Jackson Sims, our pole sitter, also involved in this one. See, on board with 63. Yeah, looks like Jared Duda kind of pushes up the track there. I don't know if he gets a bump from behind. Yeah. Kind of similar to what we saw happen to Shane Neiswanger there when he was running up in the 3rd position. Maybe just an uneven bump here on the straightaway. No, it doesn't look like there was any contact from behind. Duda just kind of travels up the track. I don't know if he was trying to make a move on this is 27 of William Barbagelata. Didn't realize that he wasn't clear. A bunch more drivers collected up in this one, and a lot of names that were down near that cut line of 10th in the standings. We're getting an opportunity here. Yeah, this is what happens to 49. Oh, wow. Almost like he bumper grabbed or something there off the back of 37.
It's just such the one point I kind of made tonight that I'm so proud I made is the fact that it takes some time to kind of learn how to do this. And some of these guys like Neiswanger, and then we saw I can't remember who it was. They get up there and it's Jump, I think. They get up there and it's the first time they've kind of really done the pushing, and now it's the moment that they have to be really good at it to gain ground. And it's just maybe a weird transition there, bumper sliding back and forth, and unfortunately just kind of the tires grabbed and hard on the wall. I was glad no one else got involved in that, because if you're Neiswanger, you probably knew your race is done. Why you don't want to bring anyone else into it. Nice job by everybody to get around it.
Well, our top 3, we've had them at the front for most of this race. Jared Darling, Elliott Henderson, and Hunter Madalinas. But look who we've got in the conversation now late in this one. You've got Hunter Brittle now up in 4th. William Barbagelata in 5th. Jeremy Pienta going to line up on the outside of row 3. We saw him and Angel Delgado play that alternative strategy under that green flag run. They're going to be on the outside of rows 3 and 4 respectively. James Shiflett, we've not mentioned him at all tonight. He has survived to now be up in the top 10 and 8th. Trey Bartow currently in 9th. There are a lot of drivers that we have not talked about this evening. You talk about the survival instincts. Well, they've done it here, and they may be reaping the benefits of a top 10, maybe even a top 5, depending on what happens here in the closing stages, finish at Atlanta.
Yeah, and an overtime restart. There's not much time here for the push. It's all really about the restart and how fast you can get going, and then it's just a matter of if there's any, mistakes up in this top 6, top 8, does that then, create a gap, and then all of a sudden a big momentum burst on the second lap. That's kind of what happens on these super speedway restarts on overtime. We'll see how it goes.
See if the leader can make it around to the white for it to be official. Great launch for the control truck of Jared Darling. Hunter Madalinas going to push him clear. Now, if you're Madalinas, you've got some options. Do you stay committed to the inside line, or do you jump to the top side and hope Elliot Henderson might push you past the teammate?
Yeah, so far he's been really working to help Darling. Henderson's going to have an opportunity. I think if you're Madalinas here, this is your best opportunity. Just help your teammates battle out for the win. We'll see if looks like so far they're going to try to make it back to the white. Darling with control.
Looks like leader's going to get there. White flag is in the air. One more lap to go here at Atlanta.
Pianta out to the outside, 3 wide. I don't know what that momentum's going to do. It might pull Brittle back enough that Henderson is going to... Oh, now Madalinas loses some momentum. They're going to be side by side for the lead.
This is going to be close. Can Pianta get that third line up there, make it 3 wide for the top spot? It's Henderson versus Darling. They're wrecking in the back. Who's going to be able to side draft? Who's going to nose it out? They're wrecking behind to the line. Elliot Henderson got the momentum on the top side, and he'll pick up the victory here tonight. His first of the season. He takes the EchoPark 154.
We saw it throughout that last run. I thought that the 7 of Madalinas was doing a great job of pushing Jared Darling, but he just slowly was kind of maybe losing a little bit of handling on his truck, and I think that kind of just, he kind of lost touch with Darling there on the backstretch, and it just kind of slowed down that bottom lane, even though I thought that middle lane that Henderson was leading wasn't going to have much momentum. He did get the momentum, and then on the front stretch there, he was able to really just be in the right spot when everybody started wrecking. I think Darling was getting the pushes from Madalinas, who was all over the place trying to help him out, but just not enough. And yeah, Henderson grabs the win and only 3 points out of that points lead.
Huge momentum if you're the driver of the 37. Other drivers in front of you, Henry, Peterson, and Weeks all had issues. You get the valuable win, you get those valuable points, and now it puts you right in the conversation to win this regular season championship. It's interesting for Henderson, 2 other podium finishes this season. A 3rd place at Charlotte, a 1.5 mile racetrack. A 2nd place at Daytona, a super speedway. Put the 2 together, you're P1 here tonight at the Atlanta Super Speedway.
We look back to Daytona, the side-by-side battle between him and Spencer Owens after battling for most of that race, or at least kind of being in control of that race, the 2 of them. Tonight, kind of the same thing, but with Jared Darling being able to control really the second half of that race, and then, just battle out at the end. I think, it was maybe not as close as Daytona was, but yeah, Henderson just got Darling just by about a half a car length.
And you certainly would have to think, though, as we get into the middle of the playoffs to Talladega with a 1.5 average finishing position now in these first 2 super speedway races, we'll be talking a lot about driver 37. I believe we are able to go down to Victor Lane and dial him up. Elliot, it's Ross and Seth up here in the split-second broadcasting booth. Have you got a copy?
I do.
Man, I'll tell you what, it's been a bit of a winless streak for you here. You've been up in the conversation numerous weeks, came up just short at our first super speedway at Daytona. You were committed to that outside line the entire race. It gets you the momentum you need there off of 4. But at any point did you think, man, maybe I don't have the push from behind. I don't have the momentum I need to be able to get this thing?
No, halfway through, I definitely thought the top wasn't going to win it. But our goal as a team, obviously, teammates with Jared and Madalinas on the bottom there, the goal was to just sit up top and manage the race and make sure that a Spectrum-funded driver won the event and got us maximum points, and we did that. So that worked out. But yeah, I didn't think the top would be the lane, but on that last restart, everyone gets a little bit more aggressive. There was pushes in a 3rd lane being made, so it just kind of worked out off of turn 4 exactly how I'd want it to.
we gave this racetrack the phrase wild card, and we definitely at wild card racetracks see points swings. You came into tonight 38 points out of the points lead. The 3 drivers in front of you have issues tonight. You're able to keep it up inside of the top 5 the entire evening. As you said, get those max points. You now go into next week single-digit points out of the regular season championship with 4 races to go. What's the momentum feel like right now for this 37 team?
Good. It's really good momentum. I do have to just say, I know I'm racing weeks, and I know he's probably really frustrated by the move that I made down the backstretch and everything, and it's not exactly how I want to try to win races, but I can't exactly, let someone to the inside. So I'm sure we'll either talk about that or we won't. But I know he's going to disagree with me kind of throwing a late block there and everything. But I just want to apologize for anybody that was involved in that wreck, him included. If I was the one that kind of caused that, I haven't had a chance to go back and look. But otherwise, yeah, we haven't had momentum pretty much all season. I feel like we've been consistent all season, but we haven't really had strong momentum. And I really thought Martinsville was a good chance for us to kind of turn the tide. And then we got involved in that last lap wreck, and it really kind of diminished us. And now we get to bounce back with a big win this weekend or this week, and see where this goes moving forward as we close in on the chase.
Well, bounce back indeed. Big victory for you here tonight as you take the checkered flag at the Atlanta Super Speedway. We'll let you get back to your celebrating here in a moment, but we'll first give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
Yeah, first of all, thanks to Brittle for pushing. Thank you to Shane for pushing, Spencer, anyone else that kind of just helped me stay up here, but mainly Brittle at the end there. And apologies to Shane. I have to go back and look at that. I don't know if it was a move I made to put him in the outside wall or if it was just some type of, netcode or internet issue. So really feel bad about that. He had a really strong run going, and I thought us two could kind of dominate that top lane too. But thanks to all those guys that helped push me and put me in the position. Really cool to kind of get that from Brittle, even though I know he didn't get the finish he wanted. Thanks to Spectrum, everyone that kind of works on this team, Jared, Madalinas, Eric, Caressel, Robin, and everyone else that's involved. We had a lot of fun tonight and looking forward to the next few weeks. Thanks to everyone from our satellite teams with, Roundabout Gaming and Sensi and Evan Snyder and KFS with King Cott and Sims and all those guys over there. And then thanks to my girlfriend Abby for letting me do this and not getting bothered by it, and everyone else that supports this, Split Second Broadcasting and all the admins and everyone that puts us on. This league is obviously a ton of fun, pretty competitive, and definitely looking forward to finishing the season out strong.
Well, EchoPark Speedway belongs to Elliot Henderson here tonight as he picks up his first victory of Season 11 in the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series. Congratulations on the job well done. Go enjoy this victory, and best of luck here in these final 4 races of the regular season.
Thank you, guys.
And we'll see if Ross can get a hold of our runner-up finisher here tonight.
Jared, you got a copy?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Jared, you had a lot of time up front, leading this race tonight, and a lot of times having somebody to your outside trying to take the lead. Unfortunately, in the end, you come up just a little bit short. What happened on that final lap to ultimately hand the win over to your teammate Elliot Henderson?
Yeah, it's a heartbreaking one, honestly. Especially the lead. I don't even know how many laps I had, but I know it was a lot. Yeah, going back and looking at it, I don't think there's really much more I could have done different. Just everybody wasn't lifting there at the end, and I didn't really have the push from Hunter, which, first of all, shout out to Hunter. He pushed me, I think, the whole entire race and did an amazing job. And me, him, and Elliot basically controlled that entire race. So at least one of us got the win, but I'm selfish. I want to win, So, I mean, that sucks. But yeah, I think they just kind of got together, and I didn't really have the momentum from the push from Hunter off 4. And, Elliot is my teammate. I want to be clean. Maybe when I look back at it, do I go up and try to side draft, maybe bump him a little bit, trying to win? But, kept it clean. So I don't really think I could have done anything different.
During that race, you talked about it with Madalinas, pushing you. You had that opportunity up front. It kind of gets you just in this spot where you're not in the chaos. What's it like looking in the mirror and seeing all these wrecks, seeing all these incidents where you're able to, you started up on that front row and able to or actually started third, but you've been able to stay up in that top 5 for most of the race and see all that action behind you. What's that like throughout the race?
Yeah, I had that mindset. I knew coming into this race that controlling and being up front was the way to go, and I wanted to make sure I did everything I could to be up front and be in front of all that, because it's kind of hard to go through the pack. It's a narrow track. We're 2x2, and we're wide open, so there's really nowhere to go. And then people get impatient there towards the end, and people just kind of just start trying to make it 3 wide and run over each other. So I just wanted to keep the truck up front the entire race, and that was the plan all along. And I knew, I feel like I know it's plate racing, but I feel like I'm pretty good at it. That's why I'm up front all the time on them, and just controlling the race is what I wanted to do. And then when you have your teammates, it obviously makes it even easier. But yeah, just staying in front of the chaos. I want to say it wasn't as chaotic as I thought it was, but I also was up front. But yeah, I just wanted to stay up front for sure at this place.
Well, the good side of finishing second, you are now only 8 points out of a playoff spot or a chase spot here, with 4 races to go. What's that thought now as you try to make your way into that chase spot in this next 4 weeks?
Yeah, well, I mean, max points was the goal tonight, and just missed out on that. Led the most laps, second. I knew coming to this one, I feel like it was almost a must-win for me, because I know this is my opportunity to get the points I need. The last couple races in this league, for me personally, have just been really rough. I've lost a lot of points, and I came into this race full on. I'm winning this thing, and it sucks to get that close. But yeah, the points. I mean, I'm not out of it. Obviously, I think St. Louis is next. It's a great track for me too. I hope I can run well there and just stay out of trouble and not get any chaos or any contact with people. So I mean, I feel good about it. I know I'm good enough to do it. So just hope I don't get any bad luck or in any trouble. But hopefully we can get in the top 10. A few more points.
Well, your second place run does give you an opportunity here to end your interview with some sponsors. Anyone you got to thank, go right ahead. We'll give you that opportunity now.
Yeah, just Elliot and Hunter and the whole team. We all worked together so well. We were communicating well. You got to have that at these places, and the communication was on point tonight, controlling that race. And I mean, it was phenomenal. I pissed a little bit that I didn't win, yeah, but at least it's my teammate and the team that got the win. Still, we're all selfish when we want to win, right? So, and just Eric for the paint schemes as always. You broadcasting, and glad to be talking to you guys again at the end of the race. And we'll see you next week. Shout out to all the admins and everybody that runs this league too. Sometimes I get a little emotional, a little angry sometimes, but everything they do here to put on this, it's such a fun league, and I've been racing on here for 10 years, and this is a good group of people to be around, and I love this league and can't wait for next week. So we'll see you there.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jared.
All right, thanks.
And let's see if we can get a hold of our third place finisher here tonight, Jeremy Pienta. Jeremy, it's the guys up here in the split-second broadcasting booth. You got us?
Yep, I do.
Man, I'll tell you what, it's been a tough season for this 42 truck. Your best finish so far this season, 19th. That was back at Michigan tonight. Third place, strong showing at the Atlanta Super Speedway. But if we kind of go back to around the midway portion of this race, you and the 90, you play a little bit of alternative strategy. Caution comes out and you have to take a wave around. You start at the very tail end of the field. How in the world were you able to work your way up through those multiple wrecks to be up there in the conversation, bring it home solidly inside of the top 5?
Honestly, just avoiding the wrecks. I mean, I'm not a strategy guy. Thankfully, my teammate, Angel Delgado, was a strategy guy, and he helped me through it.
We obviously saw that it was difficult to pass here at this racetrack, but obviously you and Angel able to work your way up through there. Was there anything outside of avoiding the wrecks that you were able to find? We saw where some drivers kind of would catch each other out and cycle them up there to that outside line, be able to shoot up through the middle. Was that some way you were able to make forward progress as well?
I'd say the best way of making forward progress was the 3 wide I did on the last lap. I mean, nobody wants to send it 3 wide, but somebody has to. So I did it, and it worked out.
What's this do as far as the confidence as well? Because as mentioned, the numbers have not all been all that great coming into this one. Sometimes we talk about it only takes that one good finish to shift the momentum for a team or for a driver. What's this do for you here with 4 races left here in the regular season? Maybe be able to mathematically make a push towards the playoffs if this consistency keeps up.
I mean, yeah, mathematically I could make it, but skill-wise, these guys got me beat. These are very talented people. I'm pretty good at drafting tracks, so that's where I shine, but they shine on mile and a halves, which is challenging for me. But I have to. They're ultimately making me better, so I gotta get better.
Hey, your first top 10, top 5, and podium finish on the season. Well deserved as you stayed patient through the second half of this race to get yourself up through all the traffic and bring it home solidly here tonight at the Atlanta Super Speedway. Before we let you go, Jeremy, we'll give you the opportunity here for thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
Well, yeah, I'd like to thank Limit Motorsports, Daniel and Healing. They're back in the other server. They're awesome people to be around, and they lead the team great. I'd like to thank Angel for the strategy and helping me get through. I'm not. He helps me a lot, and I'm very appreciative of it. And that's it.
Jeremy Pienta, solid run here tonight, brings it home on the podium this evening at EchoPark Speedway. Congratulations on the job well done here tonight. Go and enjoy this great run this evening.
Thank you.
So Jeremy Pienta bringing it home with his best finish of the season. Jared Darling netting some good points there, putting him closer to that cut line, and Elliot Henderson now with the victory puts himself in the forefront of the regular season championship conversation, -3 to the points leader, Christian Peterson. Here's a look at how it all sorted out, with Henderson taking the victory, 6/100ths over teammate Jared Darling. Pienta in third. Madalinas going to finish in fourth, so 1-2-4, not bad there for those teammates. Spencer Owens, our winner at Daytona, top 5 run here tonight at Atlanta Super Speedway. William Barbagelata, after the early penalty in the first few laps of this race, brings it home in 6th. Hunter Brittle in 7th. Trey Bartow, we didn't talk a whole lot about Trey here this evening, but he'll net a top 10 run in 8th. Nathan Jump will bring it home in 9th. And we saw Angel Delgado help push Jeremy Pienta up there to the podium finish. He'll bring it home solidly inside of the top 10.
Yeah, looking at the second grouping of 10 drivers here and where they ended up, a lot of them, involved in that last lap crash. Some of them even just farther back from the pack with some damage. James Shiflett in 11th, Michael Senzi 12th, Rod Fosnow comes home 13th. Matthew Durr, 14th. We saw Jackson Sims. He had multiple lives throughout this race and ultimately come out with a 15th place finish. I think he'll probably take that after starting up on the pole. I probably wanted to stay up there a little bit longer, but ultimately able to get back to 15th. Lewis Woodall, another one of those drivers with multiple lives tonight. He had the issues going 2 laps down, was able to get back on the lead lap and finish 16th. Tony Maggi, 17th. Brett Malone, 18th. Brent Kingcott in 19th. And Cy Jackson rounds out the top 20.
1 week removed from his victory back at Martinsville, Jared Duda is going to finish in the 21st position. Eric Kemp, 22nd. Nicholas Caressa will be 23rd. Ashton Lawson in 24th. Shane Neiswanger, 25th. From Duda down to Neiswanger, they were running anywhere from 3rd to 8th at the time that they were caught up in their respective wrecks. Aiden DuPont going to finish in 26th. Josh Robin had a tough night, 27th for him. Travis Hanby in 28th. Matthew Weeks came into this race 12 points out of the points lead. He will be 3rd in points, -10 going into next week's race at Gateway as he finishes 29th. And Evan Snyder will finish in the 30th position.
And you talk about Matthew Weeks, one of our championship battle, or at least contending for that number 1. You see Christian Peterson on this last page in 32nd, right in front of him, Kurt Gibson, both of them finishing 20 laps down after being involved in that kind of late second run, or that last run wreck there. And then Preston Henry in 33rd, Zach Henry in 34th, and Robin Durr rounds out the field in 35th.
Our top 3 in points coming into tonight, none of them managed to finish any higher than 29th place. We mentioned this as a wild card racetrack. It certainly was that, and look how it has shaken up the points. Peterson and Weeks, they're still close, 9-point separation with Henderson right in between them, -3. Spencer Owens is now back up in the conversation at -12, and Ashton Lawson, Tony Maggi, don't count them out. They still could have a run here towards the regular season championship as well.
Yeah, just a great little battle we got going here for those bonus points. Only getting bonus points for the driver that ends up number 1 here. So if you look at these drivers, just that really closed up with these next 4 weeks. Some interesting tracks to go to, and we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that battle along with the battle for that last spot in 10th.
Well, next week we head to the shadow of the St. Louis Arch as we will be at Worldwide Technology Raceway. 4 races remain here in the regular season until we determine those drivers that will battle in the chase for the championship here in Season 11 of the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series. We thank you all for tuning to our coverage here tonight. Elliot Henderson, your winner of the EchoPark 154 at the Atlanta Superspeedway. For Ross Brockman, our producer, Jeff Johnson, I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you next Tuesday night as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of Split Second Broadcasting.